Hey everybody, welcome back. Another edition of The Last Rep. Here's David Bay. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Just done a little bit with last week off, so back a lot of stuff to talk about. Big weekend in bodybuilding, big last week, and then an even bigger show coming up this weekend. So a lot to talk about, and
Well,
all good things.
let's talk
All
about
good.
your left arm that looks noticeably bigger than your right arm. What's going on there, David?
Are they? I don't.
Oh,
Is it that?
it's a giant weight you got on your wrist.
Oh,
What's going
I'm
on
like,
there?
wow, no. Yeah, look at my new
Oh,
watch.
well, what do we have here, my friend?
Doing some stuff with I don't know. I'm centered here with
There you go.
swole,
That looks good.
with swole o'clock. My guy Hanu and I.
Shameless plug.
It's summer, and he's like, we were rapping the other day. He's like, dude, it's summer. You need a white watch for summer. Apparently, you need I'm not a guy who wears white linen pants ever, and I know white pants
For good
for the
reason.
summer before Labor Day are okay. I like my white V-necks, but now I have a white watch to match my shit. So
All right,
no,
well.
it's cool. But I thought you were being serious. I'm like, I'm prepping for a show, so
so
of course I'm all self-conscious. I'm like, is it that
Like all
noticeable?
competitors getting ready for a show, they start getting
Oh,
paranoid.
my left arm, but that's my left arm is bigger than my right one, so I was like, I didn't think it was noticeable on camera. So
Don't worry. Don't. All
Ugh.
have a carb, my friend. You'll be fine.
giving
All
me
right.
a complex already.
Listen, a lot to catch up on. Obviously, this last week was a busy one for both of us. I was in New Orleans with my buddy Luke and Robin Teswich putting on the Greater Gulf States, another great show. I'll get into that in a minute because we've got one side and the other completely covered in this one segment. You, my friend, were out with this big, gigantic, ridiculously huge. There's big country and there's bigger country. What the hell's going on with Dallas?
Yeah, so I emceed a show in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My friends that run Shredded Cheddar Productions put on the Brew City. It's the third year of the show. And anybody who's been to a Wisconsin show knows, like, the promoters now in Wisconsin, we might be a small state, but they don't mess around. I mean, they still bring in all the biggest names for guest posers, and everything's crazy at these shows. But they had Dallas in, and Dallas is about 330 pounds right now, and it is obnoxious. And he's not just a sloppy 330 either. He's off season, but it's a good 330 pounds. And his guest posing was unbelievable. If you saw, we had a little bit of fun. There was a kid that did he was a teenager, but he did just the men's open, classic physique division A, and he was 5 feet tall, 107 pounds. And the promoters of the show kind of give me free reign on the mic. They're friends of mine. They say, you know what, if you want to do something kind of off script or have some fun with something, like, go nuts. We trust you. And so I'm like, you know what? It would be really cool to have this little kid out with Dallas, kid that's 5 feet tall, 100 pounds, and in Dallas that's 6'2", 330. So we brought him out. Dallas was a great sport about it. I knew he would be. I had lunch with Dallas, had some great conversation about what he's got going on. But I said, hey, there's a kid this morning. Would you mind doing that at night? He's like, yeah, of course. He's like, don't put me through a round of mandatories like you're Steve Weinberger. He's like, no, I don't need to be dying up there. But so we had fun with it. But it was very impressive. And for the bodybuilding fans, it's always a treat to be able to see these top pros. But for the people who are first timers at shows, just watching friends and family compete, you got to imagine Dallas is literally the biggest human these people are ever going to see in their entire life. And it was a lot of fun. So it was a great show, great turnout. The kid that won the overall first show, 24 years old, has no idea what he's doing. And I would bet my house that I bet my house a lot lately. I would bet my house that he would have won the overall at Junior Nationals last weekend. And I would also bet that he's a young kid, so we all know, things get a little tight with prep and stuff financially. I would bet that if he would go to the USAs and do the heavyweights, that he'd be a top 5 guy at the heavyweights. He was that good. Had no clue what he was doing. He's like, I was eating fried chicken and whatever up until about 10 weeks out, decided to do my prep. He's like, I didn't really do any cardio at all. Or any cardio. I'm like, you didn't really do any cardio, or you didn't do cardio? No, I didn't do any cardio. And he was in really good shape. He wasn't like gnarly grainy, but still has, striated glutes. Everything was deeply separated. So, it's people talk so much about bodybuilding being dead and blah, blah, blah. And when you see a kid like this come out, 24 years old, all the potential in the world, it's exciting.
Very, very good. Well, you got the big in Dallas at 330. I had the small. At the Greater Gulf. It's a huge show down in New Orleans. I've been doing that one for years. But so, special treat this year. We get a competitor in the NPCs who is the world's smallest bodybuilder. His name's Drew Varick. I don't know if you saw the pics on Facebook.
Drew Varick. I did not.
His name's Drew Varick. He's 58 pounds and he's 3 feet 6. Let me tell you.
386, 58 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow. Was he? Did he do? I'm assuming bantamweight bodybuilding, right?
Yeah, he was into bantams. It was his first show ever. Got into some bodybuilding, and he wanted to give it a shot. So
Well, good for him.
So of course I had fun with him the complete opposite way in which you had fun with Dallas. So now you know me. Of course I didn't like. I kept it short. Obviously, David.
Sure.
And
Jesus, it took me a second. Kept it short.
I didn't want to piss him off.
It was a small segment, huh?
Yes, very small segment. Yes, but he was a good guy, man. I tell you, great sense of humor. Loved every bit of it. Of course, thank God, he actually wins the bantamweights. I think he was the only one in it actually in the open, but that's okay. Yeah. But I just wanted to get him in the pose down, and of course, epic pose down. He was going in between these guys, obviously getting in front of them, and the people just ate him up, man. But I tell you what, man, this kid is good. He's done a few things, actually. I think he had said he had a piece in American Horror Story and some other stuff. So he's branching out, trying to get himself some work out there. But Drew Varick, give him a...
Drew Varick.
He's got his own custom martial arts, actually. He calls it Drew Fu. Yeah, it's like Kung Fu. That's what he told me, yeah. So he's working on a few things. But anyway, getting into other news. So over the last weekend, we were off for vacation, and... Kai Greene, back in the news, has been given a special invite by the IFBB to compete in the Olympia. Now, this is real interesting, but I want to get your take on it, and of course, I will give you mine.
I have seen every take you could possibly see on this. From the Olympia is just trying to do it for a marketing thing, like, hey, we want Kai here. You can take it a handful of different ways. As far as I know. Talking to Kai, he's definitely going to compete again. He said straight out, no even Kai Greene terms where he's like, well, blah, 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 metaphorically this. He said straight out, yes, I'm going to compete again. But it didn't seem to indicate that he was going to compete again at this year's Olympia. But that being said, Kai is in good enough shape where he could definitely get ready in 12 weeks right now. And if nothing else, for me, what it was is like, look, you want the best guys at the Olympia, okay? And anybody who's been following Kai knows that he is branching out, and he had a huge year business-wise.
Yeah.
And doing the business of bodybuilding, Kai had to focus on other things from being on the stage. And so he didn't qualify. And because he didn't compete last year, he was qualified from the previous year, but because he didn't compete last year, he wasn't qualified. Would he have been? Of course, Kai would have been top 5. So I took it as the IFBB saying, you know what, here's the thing. You're not technically qualified, but if you want to come compete, you can come compete because you're Kai Greene. And we understand that, you're doing your business thing. Had Kai competed this year, he would have qualified. There's zero doubts that, he could have won any one of the Arnolds. He could have won any pro show handedly. And so I think that was kind of it. I think it was kind of this thing like, look, does the IFBB want Kai at the Olympia? Does Olympia LLC want him there? Of course. But I think it was one of those things where it was like, you know what, even if you didn't qualify, you can come, you can compete because, we know you belong there. And he does belong there. And so,
sure.
I know that goes against all the qualification rules, and you have to earn the Olympia spot. But look, Kai being at the Olympia is a good thing for everybody in the sport. And I think it's a good move. Like I said, I'm normally like, hey, special invites because somebody's popular or whatever. But I think Kai's established his place as being one of the most elite bodybuilders in the world, and he still is. And if the Olympia is supposed to be about having the best of the best, why not invite the guy to come?
Well, let me clear up a few things I've seen through the rumor mill over this past week since this announcement. One, that we being the Olympia, need Kai to compete. Why? Because the Olympia wasn't sold out the last 2 years without him. I mean, that's actually just foolish, actually. Listen, the Olympia has survived the coming and going of a lot of great athletes, a lot greater than Kai Greene. We've seen from Arnold to Dorian to Ronnie Coleman to...
I remember when Ronnie stopped competing,
Yeah.
There was talk on MD. When Ronnie retired, they said, is the Olympia ever going to be the same? Is the Olympia going to go downhill now that Ronnie's done? I was like, no, the Olympia is not going to be the same without Ronnie, but the Olympia wasn't the same without Lee Haney or Dorian Yates or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sergio Oliva.
It's never changing, my friend. It'll always be the same. There'll always be champs coming and going. All right, the Olympia is bigger than any one bodybuilder, okay? And that goes through from, again, anybody from Larry Scott to the present-day Phil Heath. Number two, that Kai Greene would basically be a sure to win. That's why they're giving him the invitation. Another complete falsehood. Listen, nothing's guaranteed for nobody. I think if anybody's seen that over the years, I would think the fans would be a little bit smarter than that these days. That there ain't no assurances to nothing. I remember that Flex Wheeler was assured the Olympia after Ronnie retired. And that didn't quite work out. Or I'm sorry, after Dorian retired. And Ronnie came out of nowhere. And guess what? I mean, listen, Ronnie was not a big name back then. He was a guy finishing 8th, and stuff like that, and last in the first Olympia that he did. So he came out, earned the spot, and it was awarded. So listen, all these conspiracy theories you can put to rest. In my opinion, I absolutely love the idea of a special invite. Here's why. Number one, I have no issue with Kai Greene getting a special invite. If anybody deserves one, you can't make any argument against it, okay? Number two, this squarely puts the ball in his court. We all remember 2 years ago with the crying on the fence video next to the freeway, why it was shot there, I have no idea, but in which Kai was waxing something about being kept out of the show and not being allowed and all that. That was all completely false. It was all bullshit. Okay, he was absolutely never kept out of the show. He had the contract in his hands months before the event. He just did not want to sign the contract, so on and so on and so on. Ditto for last year. So this now will put together any rest that the IFBB or Robin Chang or Jim Mannion or the Pro League or whatever is against Kai, or we don't want him in there, or some kind of big conspiracy. Bottom line is this, Kai. It's yours for the picking right now. If there's ever a time to go in, if you want to truly be Mr. Olympia, you want to fulfill your destiny, if that should still be your destiny.
Density.
Now's your time, man. It is your destiny.
It's your density. No, and I mean, at the end of the day, look, is my theory right? Is your theory right? Is anybody's theory right?
Mine
Whatever.
is right, of course.
The fact is, Bob's is right. No, but at the end of the day, it's been put out there that if he wants to compete, he can. Now, from what I understand, Kai is very, very busy as a business person and doing incredibly well for himself. So, he's going to kind of weigh out whether he wants to do business or whether he wants to compete. At some point, they kind of go hand in hand. But right now, Kai's he's doing great for himself as a business person and in other ventures. So I would love to see him on stage. I'm going to be at the Olympia,
sure,
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen. So, and one other thing, speaking of guest invites, Kevin Lerone announced this week that his next show is going to be in 18 weeks. So I had heard that he wasn't, his initial plan was to do Vancouver this year and requalify and get back on the Olympia stage. Right. He just posted a picture. It was a short video of him like flexing shaboom on his Instagram, saying that it's coming in 18 weeks. And so I'm thinking the Olympia is in 12 weeks. And 6 weeks after the Olympia, I don't know if that's, Prague is usually about a month afterwards.
Well, I can give you the inside scoop because I actually just saw Kevin Lerone over this weekend, believe it or not. He was in New Orleans at the show.
Okay.
And it's funny because I didn't even know he was there. All of a sudden, before the night show, he happened to be backstage. I happened to run into him. It was literally like one of those, oh, what are you doing here? He was there to support some athletes, I guess, that were competing or whatnot. But I talked to him for about 10 minutes just catching up. He was supposed to do Vancouver. As most people know, he had a few setbacks. His brother died fairly unexpectedly, I guess, and that took a.
Oh, I was aware.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a stepbrother or that type of thing, but a brother nonetheless, and that took a little bit out of him, and he had to take care of some biz. He is going to compete. It's not going to be at the Olympia, and I believe the Cheroux is back on the books to show that he's targeting. So it's going to be post Olympia. So we'll see what he ends up doing. I'd love to see Kevin back on with a full year. He definitely looked thick and full. I mean, he's definitely put on some.
Yeah, that was the one thing about the picture. Somebody asked me. I've been doing these Instagram live things when I do my cardio, basically just to have people to BS with to make my cardio sessions go fast.
Right.
But somebody asked, "Oh, did you see the new picture of Kevin? He looks huge." And size-wise, he looks like he's approaching the old Kevin Lerone.
Yeah.
But it's also an upper body picture. And so I said, his upper body, he is definitely right now, his upper body is bigger than it was at any point last year throughout any prep. So there's that. But I don't know what his legs look like. And until I see those, I'm going to reserve my critique of how I feel that Kevin can do. But I will say that if his leg progress looks anything like his upper body progress, we could see a significantly different Kevin Lerone later on this year.
So you're
am
not...
I going to go and say
it's
that's going to be Kevin from 1999? No.
So basically, you're not going to take his one upper body picture in his word and declare him the winner of the Olympia?
No. And
It sounds familiar. I've heard that before.
Kevin Lerone was probably I would say probably, I loved all the old guys, Flex, Sean, Dorian, but Kevin was probably my biggest influence. He was the guy that if I could have picked one guy I wanted to look like back in the day, it was Kevin. So you got to believe me when I say I want him to look like Kevin of '99, but that's not going to happen. But I think he can be significantly improved over what we saw at the Olympia last year, and I'm looking forward to that. So
hopefully he won't be significantly buried with injury. The one thing I do cringe every time I see a video. Kevin's a strong guy. Let me tell you that. He's always been extremely strong. That's a blessing and a curse. And right now when you're 52, it's a curse. Every time I see a video with him piling on 5 plates onto a bench for a guy who's already had his pec reattached, I got to be honest, man. I'm biting my lip watching this thing, just hoping I don't hear a snap. Let me tell you something, Kev. I love you, man. PSA, please. Stop with the 500-pound bench presses, the 600-pound squat. Just stop. You don't need it. There's a straw that broke the camel's back, or Kevin's back in this case, all right? Listen, don't do it, man. You don't need it. But
the man is on fire, and
listen,
he's gonna stop when he's ready to stop.
Listen,
that's what I know about Kevin.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, okay? You're not getting anything more size-wise out of putting that up than you could with, 365 or something that's manageable for reps. Or pick a different exercise. But don't keep going to the well, my friend, because I'm telling you.
Flat bench, if you're going to blow out your pec, that's the one. I rarely flat bench anymore, and I usually never do it first. I'll throw it in once in a while, and I warm up on flat bench like I'm 60 years old.
Yeah,
2 sets of the bar. I 2 sets of the bar, 2 sets of 45. Set of 185, set of 225, set of 275, set of 315.
Well, listen,
and then I'll put my working sets of 365.
Let's go back to history, okay? All right. I knew Kevin back then, all right? When he blew out his pec in his 20s, in his prime of doing a 565-pound bent, whatever, and almost destroyed his career before it even got moving.
Yeah.
Thank God for him, they were able to do a successful reattachment. He happened to be in the same town as the doctor who pretty much invented the surgery, the newer surgery, for pec reattachment. So without that, Kevin Lerone, as we know, may never have ever sniffed the Olympia stage, but why go back to that and chance it again for a stupid bench press, which ultimately means nothing? And the last time I checked, David, there is still no bench press round at the Olympia.
No, nor will there be anytime soon. But if there was...
You'd win it.
There was.
All right, moving on to other things. Huge show this weekend. The Chicago Pro is in the books for this weekend, bro. It will be a record-breaking event. Tim Gardner putting that one on once again. Now, Tim holds the current record. I don't know the exact number. I want to say it was like 219 or 220 from a couple of years ago. I think we fell just short last year, but this year looks like a lock. Numbers were already at 217, I think, and there were some more people jumping in this week. So I'm going to go on a limb and say we're looking at about 225 to 230. These are just pros.
Yeah, 217 is what I have the list up right now. 217 is what it's at.
And today's Tuesday still, so you got another couple of days. There'll be some add-ins.
You got some people who are going to jump in. Yeah. I tell you what, it's gonna be a good show. And I saw the list, and I only knew I knew Kevin Jordan was going in. I knew Regan Grimes was going in, and we'll talk the Open first and focus on that. And I knew Charles Griffin was going in, but that's all I knew. And the lineup, we have Paulo Almeida, Elvin Peter Andre, I don't know who that is, Henry Pierre Ano, I love Henry, Greg Atoyan, Eddie Bracamontes, Mark Daughtry, Lloyd Dollar, but then we got Charles Griffin, who got third in California, runner-up to Victor Martinez, Regan Grimes making his pro debut, Dusty Hanshaw back on stage, Kevin Jordan, Michael Lockett, the red hair wonder, Michael Lynn from New York, Rudy Richards, Luis Rodriguez, the guy who made a huge splash at the New York Pro.
Yeah.
That a lot of people felt could have done better, is going to be there. And, John Sylvia, I'm not familiar with John. Zdenek Prada, a Masters competitor who looked pretty good, and John Wade, another guy. So this is the open bodybuilding division is going to be good. If I had to put my early money on somebody,
or bet your house.
What's that?
Or bet my house.
It's hard for me. I would have to go down between either Lockett or Charles Griffin, but I think when we go pose for pose, my pick for the win in Chicago, Charles Griffin.
All right.
Third place in California, second place behind Victor Martinez at the Muscle Mayhem Pro. I look at this lineup and I think it's really good. Eddie, Kevin Jordan, Michael Lockett. But I think when they turn to the back and hit some of those back poses, Charles is he's gonna put himself ahead of Michael Lockett. So my prediction for the Open win, Charles Griffin.
Well, I'll say this, David. This show is about as wide open as it gets. Now, we talk about the business of bodybuilding, about picking the right shows and all that. There is literally not a front runner. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Lockett. He's probably the most experienced out of this lineup.
Yeah.
But Michael has just enough things wrong with him and right with him that it's never, a done deal. You know what I mean? So he's not dominant.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, this is a show where if I look at this list of guys who could win, Luis Rodriguez could win, I think. Michael Lockett could win. I think Kevin Jordan could win. I think Charles Griffin could win. I think appealed to the bone, Eddie Bracamontes could win. Even a Paulo Almeida, for as blocky as he might be, I think he's got enough muscle and enough everything. I don't know that he's going to show up razor sharp. It could be his one time.
Right.
Or he's.
Here's the
he's
thing
just
with
anybody could win. You're right. I'm going to pick Charles, but yeah, it's just. This is a show where there's no clear front runner. You can make an argument for about 5-6 different guys.
Well, and we will. Paulo is decent. He's a big boy, and he did well in Toronto, but Toronto's not a deep lineup. So hopefully he is going to trim it up a little bit because you need to be in about 5-6 pounds trimmer than Toronto to even have a chance at sniffing the top 5. I'll tell you this, my man Eddie Bracamontes, I really like his physique.
He's close,
and he's close. Like I say, this kid's got it all. I mean, he's really put together well. And this is a guy I think, honestly, that could come out. If he's just in condition, I think he can win the show fairly easily.
I think, Eddie's, and if we look at it, if we're talking big frames, Eddie's got one of the bigger frames of most of these guys.
Well, the biggest frame on all of them is my man Henry Pierre. He's a big boy, and he started coming on a little bit last year. He's a real tall guy, extremely wide frame. He had to put a little bit of beef on still, but he put it all together and had a couple of real good finishes last year. He could surprise a few people if he's put on about 10 pounds. I haven't seen him, but he's a good guy, and I think he's got a real good future. Like I say, he's just extremely long. He's got long arms, long legs, a lot to fill out.
Yes,
This is a good show for somebody to really establish themselves. And let's face it, man, I ain't going to go against your pick because honestly, Griffin, he's got it all. He can easily put it up there. If you can take second to Victor, I think you can represent well here.
Yeah, and the 212 is stacked too. And it's the 212 is another one of these where if I look at it, I can kind of pick a favorite. So like out of the big names, we have Al Auguste. We have Alex Cambronero, Nam Un Cho. We have Dobromir Delev, Charles Dixon, Tricky Jackson. We have another Korean, Kim Jun Ho. We have that's probably it as far as I think the top guys. But I thought Charles Dixon was a shoe-in for the Dallas Europa. Sean Clarita came in and beat him. So I know Charles Curtis, a guy who's been in the game forever, kind of started really, really coming into his own in the last couple of years. So Charles could do really well. Al Auguste when he's razor sharp. I mean, this is going to be a really interesting 212 as well. I mean,
this is the tank show to win or lose. Like I say, he was about this far off in Dallas, and it just opened up the door for Sean Clarita, the giant killer. And you couldn't take anything away from that kid. I mean, he was on the money. Dobe Delev, again, was very good also, but he's a little bit more square. Dixon, honestly, and I talked to Dixon immediately following Dallas, if he just brings it down another pound or two,
he's right there.
He's so thick. I mean, he's got more muscle than anybody. If he's in condition, very difficult to beat. But it's another good 212 lineup. That's for sure.
I would be remiss. Normally we don't talk about men's physique, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have Muhammad Ali competing.
Oh, wow. The greatest.
Muhammad Ali. No, normally I don't talk about men's physique, but I was scrolling down the list. I'm like, oh, Muhammad Ali. But actually, Sergey Konstants,
Okay.
international famous fitness model turned men's physique. Come on, you got to know Sergey.
I remember
Dark
the hair.
hair.
I remember the hair.
Yeah. That guy and his hair and his perfect face.
Stay
But it'll be interesting seeing him on stage. He's one of these guys who, as far as worldwide fame, he's probably ahead of all these people put together. But he's also trying to, establish himself as a competitor. So that should be interesting. I mean, they got all, classic physique is going to be there. Classic physique is going to be interesting. Lee Banks is throwing his hat in there. George, they have it listed as Patterson. I believe it's George Peterson, though, the guy who got second or third in New York. My man Courage Opara is going to be there.
Courage.
Santiago Aragon is going to be there. Don Long's guy. Armando Aman. So, again, I mean, this classic physique lineup, and most of these names in classic physique I don't recognize, but some of these guys I guarantee are going to come out and establish a name for themselves. And so this classic physique, I mean, these lineups are – it's going to be an incredible show. I mean, even
you got some top names there already, bro. I mean, and Sante certainly would be a guy I would put in there as a contender, although only a complete idiot would label him as a legend at this stage of his career. But I am a very good fan of Sante's posing and his presentation. So hopefully he'll put out his best out there, David. And Lee Banks.
If you're a legendary bodybuilding handicapper, then you have the right to call him a legend. No, I love Santiago Aragon. I think he's a great competitor, a great young kid, one of the best posers in the IFBB. But yes, he was recently quoted as being a legend by somebody, which I think
you kind of need more than
disrespect. No disrespect, Santi.
No,
but
you need more than 2 shows under your belt to get labeled.
You don't get called a legend yet, so I'm sorry,
man.
He's got legendary hair. I'll give him that.
I tell you what, that would be a good matchup. Him and Sergey. Now there is a pose down worth having.
You could have a hair pose down between Santiago and Sergey.
Even though they're in different.
What if maybe On Win signs up last minute?
Yeah. See now,
bodybuilding classic and men's physique, a hair showdown for the age.
Let me ask you a question here, right? Speaking of On, like this is a perfect show for a guy like him, which I'm a little surprised not to see his name. And I see a guy like Eddie Bracamontes, but where's a guy like Nick Trigilli? Whatever happened to this guy?
Nick was, he took some time off. I think he opened up his own gym. He was trying to get his own thing going. But I guess he's training to come back next year. So I saw Nick earlier on this year.
He hasn't even competed.
Right. Well, he's competed once or twice.
You got to start before you can even come back. I mean,
yeah, but he took some time off. He was big again. I will say that. He actually lost a lot of size doing some business stuff, and he put some size back on. I think he's planning on coming back on stage next year sometime. Right. He's still relatively young, even though he's one of these guys. I think now he's 27 or 28 or something. So he's pretty young. But it's they got fitness there. You look at the fitness lineup; it's always a really good fitness lineup. Anytime
I love
see
my
fitness
girls, man, I tell you,
figures stacked, bikinis stacked, women's physique. It's one of the biggest women's physique show of the years.
I see Autumn Swanson's name back in the list. Now she would be
Autumn Swanson is there, but I tell you what, being a former Arnold Classic winner, I think Autumn Swanson is kind of the favorite. But I am going to go with Susan Smith to win.
Really?
And she crushed nationals a couple years ago in bodybuilding with her Diana Ross hair. Everybody was freaking out.
She looked supreme, I have to say.
She looks supreme. She comes out at her pro debut in a lineup of 32 people in Phoenix. First call out, dead center. Somebody told her she needed to lean out a little bit more and slim down.
No.
And she did, and so she slimmed down for the Arnold and the Olympia. And her placings dropped. And
she was emaciated looking.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. I mean, to me, my favorite look of Susan when she won nationals, I thought this girl could win bodybuilding, she could win women's physique, she could do either or as is, which speaks a lot for somebody's physique.
Sure.
Because saying you can win bodybuilding or women's physique with the same look says that you're genetically so gifted and you fit right in between both. I think Susan, the way she looked at nationals, could probably go on this bodybuilding lineup and beat everybody on aesthetics and flow alone. But yeah, I mean, look, certain people's physiques just don't look better when you do certain things. And when she dieted down, and this is I might be controversial with this, and I'm personal friends with Susan. I've talked to her about this, and she said that she's had people tell her not to have her hair big, which I personally think is the biggest nonsense I've ever heard. When Susan came out at Nationals in 2014, it's like that's what set her apart. Instantly, everybody's like, it's Diana Ross with like a Linda Murray body, and it was so like, bam, like personality, like, oh, women's bodybuilding is dying and we need somebody with personality, and like there you had it. And I've seen her with her hair straightened and stuff, and she's still obviously an incredible athlete, but it's just not that look. And she had somebody who she feels opinion is, important say, well, you need to tone your hair down. And I was like, no. I'm like, you make that shit look, because it's personality. It's personality. What if Sonny Aragon shaved his head?
See, that would be a big mistake.
What if somebody told Sonny, your hair's a little too high, your hairline is too strong, you're too handsome.
Then he wouldn't be a legend anymore.
It would be crazy. And I think a big part of, obviously all these girls should be judged on their physique. That's the end of the day. They should be judged on their physique.
Yeah, listen.
But we have certain things that set you apart personality-wise. The biggest name still in women's physique is Dana Lynn Bailey. And what set her apart? It was her personality. It was who she was. And for somebody to tell a competitor, like, well, take this trait of yours that has nothing to do with your physique and tone it down, I think is absolute nonsense. So whether it be ill-advised or not, I told Susan, you go out there with your Diana Ross hair and you rock it and own it, and I really think she can win.
Well, listen, if it took away that much from her physique, she never would have turned pro to begin with.
No, and then she had it like that for her first show in Phoenix. Her first show in Phoenix, she beat a lineup of 30 people with her big hair. Right. And then somebody came out and said, well, you need to tone it down because your hair's too big. And I'm like,
bullshit. Now,
that's
listen,
what I said.
That's the wrong. That's the very essence of the wrong advices, David. Right there. See?
That's the wrong. Susan, if you see this before this weekend, and it'll be up before this weekend, toning down your hair is the wrong advices. Personality. That's what people want to see at the shows. Yeah. Everybody talks about these shows. Oh, they're getting boring, and there's no personality, and there's no this. And here you get a person that just lights up the stage. And am I making a big deal about hair? Sure, I am. But at some point, it's a big deal. It's part of your image. And you get a person that comes out at Nationals, lights up a stage like we haven't seen a female competitor do in a long time, and then somebody comes along and says, you know what, part of your personality, just get rid of it. It's like, no, don't listen to that shit.
Well, that will be on display along with women's bodybuilding and they have a women's international competition that's going to be held at the same competition here this weekend. That'll qualify somebody for the Wings of Strength World Championship.
Somebody's turning pro this weekend.
Somebody's turning pro. So the women bodybuilders have come out in support, which is good to see. Now, speaking of which, David, and I want to conclude our segment with this, I have gotten deluged with emails and inquiries.
You've gotten what?
Deluged.
Deluged.
Yes.
Bob has been deluged.
Deluged, yes.
That might be the first time I've ever heard the word.
Last week, I think it was last week or the week before, whichever, right? They had women's bodybuilding at Omaha, and one of the girls, Alicia Young, I don't know if you've seen her before. She's a very short, very muscular.
On the USA's a few years ago. On girl, very good poser.
Yep. She was in the show. Now, she doesn't win the show. Actually, she ends up taking almost dead last. And the reasoning is that she wasn't in shape. I saw the pics. I saw some video. Listen, she's as thick can be, but she's very boxy. Midsection was really not in control by any stretch. The boobs are like bowling balls in front of her. Doesn't help really the overall look of the physique. However, and to boot, she's smooth. Now, if this chick's in shape, she wins the show all day long. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. She's got
no question about it. But here's where I got the issue. Here's where I got the problem. Okay. There's only 8 of them. Now, I did see this Facebook rant that she put out there afterwards. Apparently, her husband, boyfriend, whatever he is out there at the show, ranting and raving. On Facebook, ranting and raving. The judging's bullshit. This IFBB, this Tim Gardner sucks. Right, the whole thing. Now I see she does an interview with Dave Palumbo over at RX Muscle. Now, Dave, to his credit, he had a few decent questions, but of course he leaves most of them not asked or not brought up. I was chomping my lip just watching this video because it's like, well, ask her some relevant stuff. She claims she was on the stage. She was so far over to the right that she was behind the podium. She could have co-hosted the show with Sean Ray. So I call Jack Titoni, not only a good friend of mine, but the promoter of the show. I says, Jack, how could it be? Was Sean on stage at the prejudging? He says, no, he was only on stage at the night show. I go, so, and he sends me a picture. The other thing was, in her opinion, the stage was so small that they couldn't even fit on there. Again, she was shoved over to the thing, out of the light, the whole thing. Unfair, right? So he sends me a picture, which we'll post up on this video for everybody to see, okay? There's 8 girls in a row on the stage. Not only can you not even see a podium on there, first of all, it's the morning. There ain't no Sean Ray. There ain't no podium. There's ample space. The stage is huge. Regular stage that Jack always uses. It's pretty much the specs. And there was only 8 of them. The other thing was she thought it was unfair, or Dave did, one or the other, that they were all brought out at once. You can't judge 8 physiques at the same time. It's like, what? It's like, actually, it's easier to judge 8 that are next to each other for comparison purposes. You didn't have to split that into 2 groups of 4. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think, I tell you what, first off, I think Alicia has a ton of potential to be a top competitor. In fact, when I was at the Rising Phoenix World Championships a couple of years ago, it was a disappointing, it was a great production. So
right.
Jake Wood and Tim Gardner, they went all out for that thing. But for the World Championships, most of the girls proverbially shit the bed. And I have no problem saying that. You know what? You girls want all this respect for women's bodybuilding, and the promoters go so far out of their way to put on a good event for you guys, and 2 people showed up good, Margie Martin and Hele Trevino. Even at that show, I said Alicia could have been the winner. Well, not the winner. I don't think she would have beat Margie, but I said Alicia could have been up there in the top 3, top 4. She can be winning other shows, but she's got to show up in shape. And if you don't show up in shape, it's like, you can't complain about not winning. Is Alicia a better bodybuilder than most of those girls? I don't know, maybe muscularity-wise and structure-wise. Sure, she could beat all of them, but you still got to show up in shape. And just because it's women's bodybuilding, it's like, if anything else, those girls bring better conditioning. So, yeah, you have to show up in shape. And as far as judging 8 people on the stage at the same time, absolutely. Look, does it get a little bit if you start putting 9, 10 people on the stage at the same time, fine.
Of course.
But when you have 8 people on the same stage at the same time, what happens is, okay, I can compare first and second in the middle, and I can do third and fourth, but if you have them all on stage at the time, look, you have to have all 8 people judged fairly. When you have 30 people, you want to have everybody judged fairly still, up to 15. But, you're going to do first call out, second call out. Did the person who's 8th get their look against the person who's 5th? No. But if you want pure judging, where everybody's going to get a look at everybody, and they're going to make sure first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and 8th is right, then having them on stage at the same time is good. Like I said, you start pushing that to 10, 11, I don't think the same logic applies.
Let me clear up a few things that our buddy Dave didn't cover in his interview, okay? Number 1, now, he tends to think she should have won the whole show. Now, I've known Dave for many years. We don't break bread, but, I've always considered us, friendly.
Sure.
He's got the worst eye of anybody I've ever known in this sport, okay? He just cannot assess a physique to save his life. And I say that with all due respect, of course.
And next week on RX Muscle.
But that's okay. Listen, if anybody had this chick winning, then you either don't know how to judge physiques or you're completely blinded by something else going on. All right, the bottom line is this. This chick was nowhere near the top 5. She didn't warrant comparison with the top 5. That's why she was on the end. So it's not like she got lost in the shuffle. There's 8 of them, for God's sakes. Number 2, didn't they do a singles display round in here? Of course they did. They all got introduced individually. So was she behind the podium when she did that? No. She was dead center in the center of the stage showing the judges what she had, okay? Like all the other girls did. That's
24 hours in a cheeseburger, Bob.
Absolutely. But
hours.
Listen, they saw you. They didn't like what they saw, okay? As PSAs go out today, that's public service announcements for those who don't know. All right, to Alicia. Listen, sweetie. Drop 10 pounds, 12 pounds, again, whatever it takes. If you're in shape, you beat everybody there. It's not even close. She's got the muscle. She's not put together badly, but she's soft. She's got not just water to lose, but fat to lose. And you've got to control the midsection. Listen, your belly cannot be out there. Okay, the guys take enough heat about that stuff as it is. If you're a girl looking like that, they will automatically put you on the end because that's not the look that they want to go for. So listen, this isn't
especially not in the women. And the other thing is that we've seen this before. Ladies, guys, everybody, it's not just when you're hitting your poses. More so, it's when you're setting up your pose. Be mindful. Quarter turn to the right. When you're turning, keep it tight. Side chest. Before you hit your pose, when you're putting your hands out to the side and getting ready to hit it, that's when everybody's letting it out.
Correct.
Side chest. They put their hands out here and boom, it just pops out. And then they pull in and they tighten it up. Like the judges didn't just see your gut pop out when you were setting it up. Same thing with side tricep. Everybody turns to the side, does one of these, and then comes back and sets it up. And meanwhile, while you're, showing off your tricep in the setup, your stomach's hanging out. Well, you guys got transitions and posing setups are part of the pose. You got to keep it tight.
There's two other things I want to address with this one before we put it to bed. One is I know Tim Gardner caught a whole bunch of flack. Now, he's the head judge there, okay? This guy, her guy, again, I don't know if she's married or it's her boyfriend, fiance, whatever. Pick your name. Whatever this guy is, okay? He's out there acting like a lunatic, apparently. And he's all over Tim's ass on Facebook or whatnot, calling him names, this and that, right? The whole thing. Now, Tim Gardner is one judge, okay? Now, even though he's the head judge, there's other judges on that panel. If anybody wanted to see her in the middle compared to anybody, they would have sent it down. And listen, they were under no time crunch. I mean, certainly with 8 of them, you could have moved anybody you wanted to around. Nobody wanted to see her in the middle, and for good reason. She wasn't good enough to be compared with anybody in the top 5 or so. Now, listen, she placed, I don't know, 7th or 8th, whatever. Could she have been 7th or 6th? Sure. But listen, everything after 5 pays the same, okay? So I wouldn't worry about that too much. Here's the part I got the biggest problem with. Now, this is just rumor. But I had heard after the show that they were considering giving her, now when I say they, it's the promoters. This is nothing to do with the IFBB. So before we start getting calls and stuff, a special invite for their Rising Phoenix show. Now, let me just put this out there to the promoters, okay? If you want to do yourselves a complete disservice, if you want to piss off every athlete that you have in women's bodybuilding, by all means, give her a special invite. First of all, you do not reward coming in last with a special invite. You're undermining the entire judging process. You're undermining how about the girls ahead of her, bro? How about the girl who placed ahead of her? How about the girl in 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th who sits there and doesn't get any invite or anything like that? So really what you're doing is you're saying, your message is, we thought you completely got screwed, all right? We thought you got the shaft or whatnot, and we're going to give you a special invite to the show? Now, again, this is rumor. I don't know. I don't have that established. I'm just putting it out there. If that's the case, I would highly suggest you not
Alicia,
do that.
Yeah, Alicia's popular in the bodybuilding world, and as far as the women's side of it, she's very popular. As far as the female bodybuilding fan base, I guess hers is pretty large. But yeah, it's one thing when you give a legend like Kevin Lerone, hey, you know what? Here's an invite. Come back. You placed top 5 a dozen years in a row. It's another thing to give somebody an invite based on solely just popularity and not merits and achievements. And as far as her husband or boyfriend goes, congratulations, dude. You're the one guy on the face of the earth that doesn't like Tim Gardner. So you're uniquely. I'll tell you what. I try not to get personal with too much stuff. But for those of you who have a little bit of background to what I did, the very first show I covered was Tim Gardner's show. And Adina wasn't there. She had to be at Team Universe. So I was like flying solo with John Hawley and I tell you what, I was as nervous as could be going down there. I felt totally in over my head as far as being around the judges and the promoter and everything else. I mean, you were there for MD and we did some stuff. And for Tim being as big of a figure as he is in the IFBB, he treated me like somebody that just was like his buddy. I know anything you need. Oh yeah, we got this. And so, not like I'm anybody famous now, but when you get your start and the people that treated you well right from the get-go, when nobody knew you from Joe Blow, you hold those people in higher regard. And I've been at a lot of Tim shows, and I've seen him around a lot of people, whether it be athletes, fans, expediters, everything. I emceed his show in Hawaii, so I got to see a little bit more on the inside of how he runs it. Look, anybody that's going to sit there and talk trash about Tim like that says a lot more about you than it says about Tim.
Well, listen, Tim had no dog in this race. I mean, listen, Tim could care less. Okay, what he's doing is he's doing what his job is. He's assessing what the physiques look like, and then he's taking the requests that are sent down from the other judges. For those who don't know how the judging process works, okay? All right, there's always an odd number. It's 5 or 7 or 9 or 11, whatever the show might be. Bigger shows have more people because we cut out more highs and lows to ensure that obviously there's nothing weird going on, okay? In this, let's just say there was, and again, I'm guessing, but let's just say there was 5 judges, okay? So they're all judging. Tim's job is to assess and see who everybody wants kind of compared, all right? If a request comes down from the end of the table, let's just say you're sitting at the end, Dave, and you say, I want to see Alicia next to the number, potentially, number 1 and 2. He'll make that call. That's when everybody, when you're out there and you say, hey, can we have number 68 and 72, switch places, please, that type of thing. They're trying to assess who looks good next to who, all right? That call never came. Nobody requested that she be looked at
they want to see
in
it,
comparison because she wasn't in shape. It's that simple.
It is what it is.
This is not a conspiracy. There's no money involved. There's no sponsorship involved. There's no nothing involved, okay? For those who can't see that, and this guy, boy, that's unique. So you think your wife should have won the show.
Oh, that's very convenient. You just happen to think that your wife should have been the one to win the show.
As you're fond of hearing.
I wonder if the same individual is as outspoken when he sees other shows where he feels the winner's the right person.
Listen,
okay?
as you well know,
obviously, if it's somebody that's with Alicia, he's around the sport. Does every time he sees a placing he doesn't like, does he go on a rant, or did he just save it?
No, of course not.
So conveniently for. Look, we've already wasted too much time on this clown as it is. But look,
my point wasn't to even waste on this guy. My point was to set the record straight.
Set the record straight.
Okay, as to how the judging process works, and if you really got that much of an issue with it, then maybe you should look in the mirror and see why it is that you weren't even considered for the top 3.
Best shape of my life.
Oh, please, a kiss of death. Don't ever say that. Speaking of which, your show coming up on a final note, David. How far are we? Let's get the David Bay updates.
7 weeks and 4 days.
7 weeks, 4 days, and 16 hours.
This weekend that a friend of mine who's also doing the North Americans will be there. So I have not that I didn't already know there would be good competition, but now I know there's going to be some very stiff competition. So obviously I'm going in to be at my best. But when you know there's going to be somebody either on your tail or somebody that you're chasing, it's just that little extra motivation. So I'm. Hopefully you can see in my face a little bit that I've lost a little bit of weight, but it's coming along. So
well, we need to chronicle this. We need to get it on video, and we need to get some, now that we're getting a little bit closer, David, I suggest that we put together a segment that we watch you getting ready for the show that we will call Baywatch.
Baywatch.
Huh?
It's brilliant.
Brilliant. Let's do it.
Brilliant.
All right, look for some of that. Look for some updates. And, folks, that's going to wrap things up here for another edition of The Last Rep. For David Bay, I'm Bob Chick. We're out.